Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sequoia Unique, and today I'm gonna be giving y'all some resume tips. You already know why you need a resume, okay? Like, I ain't even really gotta convince y'all that. Whatever the case may be, I'm here to give y'all some tips and to tell y'all what y'all need to include in your resume to make it the most effective so that you can not only get that interview but land that job. I'm just gonna jump right into it because I don't really like long intros, so let's just get into it, okay? The first thing that you're gonna need, okay, I'm gonna just go over the outline. As you can see, here is my resume. All right, I'm gonna just go over these sections and then we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of each one. All right, so the first thing that you're gonna need, right, is your heading, your header, right? It includes your name, contact information. Next is your education. Okay, you need a section that has like where you went to school, what you study, you know, everything pertaining to your education. Then you need a section that includes your relevant experience or your experience in the job force. This is the most important section, right? You need relevant experience, right? It just includes what you've been doing in the past, what you have done, how you did it, and what impact you made, right? Cool. Next is your skills section. Okay, this is just relevant skills that you know that will be useful for the job that you're applying for. Okay, these four sections that I just mentioned may vary, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be in that order. You can have other sections like I don't know, projects or research that you've done type of thing, you know what I mean? So really, honestly, the sections that I mentioned, you may include them, you may not, right? Like, you might watch another video, somebody may say you need another section or that I didn't mention. Nobody is incorrect. Everybody is right, okay? Everybody's right. It really just depends on what niche that you're applying to, like what industry, and what you feel you need to make the best impression on the recruiter. But the main thing that you need to keep in mind, right, is the story that you want to tell, right? A resume is really just a story of your experience, right? It's a story of what you've done in the past. That's really what the resume is for. It's really just a paper outlining that, okay? And so keep in mind that recruiters are only spending about 6 to 7 seconds on your resume. And before the recruiter even gets it, it goes through some type of AI type of computer programming application that scans your resume and sorts it for the recruiter. So before it even gets in the recruiter's hands, you need to make sure that you have relevant keywords and information in your resume that is going to pass that first round, so to speak. I'm gonna go over that a little later on in the video, but just know that just because I have these sections doesn't mean that this is the end all be all. You must use this template that I've decided to use, right? There's hundreds of thousands, a plethora of resume templates that you can use. This is not the only one, so I just want to make a disclaimer about that, okay? So, but today I'm just going to go over what I've included in my resume and some key sections that I feel like you need in order to formulate a resume. So without further ado, let's jump into these sections. So first and foremost, as you can see, I have my name and my contact information, okay? Some people put their whole entire address. I don't. I feel like I don't know where my resume might end up on this internet out here, so I'm not gonna put my whole entire address so people can come to my house. Okay, I don't need that. At no point do I feel like there's a recruiter gonna come to my house. So they don't need that information. They just need the city and state. So that's what I've included. City and state, my phone number, and my email. Now, you want to make sure that your email is a professional email that you check regularly. What I mean by professional is your first and last name, first name, maybe a number at the end if your name is generic and it's taken already. But first name, last name is always a good go-to, okay? You don't want to have jasmine2fly@yahoo.com or whatever, you know what I mean? And then you want to make sure that you're checking this email regularly so that when you get callbacks and you get recruiters hitting you up for interviews, you could be prepared, you could be ready, you could respond to them in a timely manner, because recruiters are not going to sit around and wait for you to respond to them. Okay, they have hundreds of thousands of people that they can email to get that interview done so that they can hire somebody as soon as possible, because that's their ultimate objective. So make sure you're checking your email regularly. Now, you also want to include your LinkedIn profile. I read in this study that people who include their LinkedIn profile and their resume are more likely to get a callback than people who do not. Actually, 48% of people do not include their LinkedIn profile in their resume, right? So you want to put your best foot forward. You don't want to be a part of that 48% who do not use their LinkedIn profile in their resume, because you actually want to get callbacks, okay? So if you know that people who include their LinkedIn profile get more callbacks, you just want to include it anyway, because you just never know if that's helping you or hindering you. You know what I mean? It's more likely helping you though. So that's just a little tidbit that I found out from this article, right? This article was written by this man named, I think his name is James Belcat. I don't know I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but his name is James, and James and his team came up with this like application where people can upload their resume to it, and then they'll help them fix it up and whatnot. So up until July, I think, of 2021, 125,000 people and counting, right, have uploaded their resume to this website. Okay, and so this is where they formulated their data. And of these 125,000 people, right, those who included their LinkedIn profile in their resume received more callbacks. And 48% of that 125,000 resumes did not include their LinkedIn profile in their resume. So again, you want to put your best foot forward, include your LinkedIn profile in your resume. Okay, so that's your header, right? It's your contact information. You want to put your name in bold. You want to make sure that people, it's rememberable. They know your name is right there. Boom, no questions asked. Okay, so that's your header. After that, I have my education. Okay, I have my education section. Okay, and this is just where I include the school that I went to and where my school was located. All right, I used to have my major and the year that I graduated, but someone told me, and it kind of made sense to me, but there's no evidence backing this up, at least to my knowledge, but someone told me that if you include the year that you graduated, it could hinder you from getting the job because of ageism. Pretty much, okay? If you recently graduated, people could assume that you are not that qualified for the job because you just graduated. How much experience could you really have if you've been in school this whole time? Also, you know, if you graduated like, I don't know, 72 or something like that, you know, people might assume that maybe you're overqualified, or, you know, basically you're too old. So, you know, I took that out of mine just because I was like, you know what, that kind of makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, if they really want to know, I could just tell them when I graduated, but it's not really necessary in my opinion. So I took that out, but you can always include that in yours. And then the next section, which I mentioned is the most important part of your resume, is your experience. Okay, I named this section relevant experience because I wanted to include my most relevant job experience that will convey that I will know what I'm doing if I get hired for this position. So for me, I had to think back to all of my job experiences, and of those, I picked about four to five job experiences that I've had so far that I feel like will convey to the recruiter that if I get hired for this position, I will be useful to you. You just don't want to include anything unless you're a recently graduated high schooler or you're in high school and you don't really have any experience in general, so you just want to include everything that you've done. That's fine. But if you're applying to a specific position and you already have like a lot of job or internships under your belt, you want to include the most relevant job experiences that you have that relates to this job you're applying to. In this relevant experience, right, you want to include the name of where you worked, where it was located, and your job title, as well as the dates that you worked at that job from. You know what I mean? You just want to include the dates where you started and you finished, right? And then after that, and this is the most important part of this is the description basically of what you've done at that job. Okay, and then this description is a formula to it. Okay, you want to include what you've done, how you did it, and the results that you've gotten from doing what you did. Okay, so again, I'm going to repeat it. You want to include it in the description of your job, right? You want to include what you did, how you did it, and the results that you got from doing it. How you convey the results of what you've done, right? You want to include some type of metric, some type of number, some type of statistic that shows or quantifies your results. This is where you're showing the impact of what you've done at these other jobs. As an example, right, as you can see here, I worked at this school. I'm gonna call it No Name School, and this was in Washington, D.C. I worked there from July 2020 to April 2021, and I was a teacher assistant. So this is what I wrote on mine, right? I said I instructed 54 students in English language arts. Cool. Aided students in reaching cognitive and development milestones ranging from language acquisition and social skills progress to standardized test score improvements of up to 35% per student. Engaged one-on-one with students with behavioral problems in both classroom and virtual settings, resulting in an improvement of more than 10% in their grades. Provided educational materials including daily lesson plans and weekly homework packets that averaged 86% completion rate. Okay, so me reading that to you kind of sounds impressive. It's like, wow, like you've really quantified these numbers and I'm able to actually visualize your impact, right? And that's what you want to convey to the recruiter, whoever's reading your resume, right? And notice how each of those sentences started with impactful, powerful verb, right? I have aided, engaged, provided, okay? Throughout my resume, I always start with actionable, powerful verbs, okay? I have managed, devised, led, assisted, planned, recruited, okay? These are powerful action verbs that are much more stronger than me saying things like a team player, results driven, self-motivated, go-getter. You know what I'm saying? So you want to avoid using fluff or buzzwords or cliches in your resume because they don't really do anything for you. As a matter of fact, they basically hinder you. And you really want to focus on starting your sentences with action verbs that convey what it is that you did in a meaningful way. Stay away from fluff words, okay? So again, notice how I used powerful, actionable verbs as the starting word for these sentences. I do also want to mention, when I say don't use like buzzwords or cliches, you know, like detail oriented or go-getter or things like that, you still want to use relevant keywords or searchable keywords. The best way to know what I mean by searchable keywords is if you go to the job, the application that you're applying for, they're gonna use certain keywords in their job description that you basically want to include in your resume, so that when your resume goes through the first round of sorting through their application that they use to sort resumes, you want to make sure that that application is going to sort your resume in the pile that is going to be seen. So not only use actionable verbs, right, but also you want to, as I mentioned before, you want to include metrics in your sentences to convey what it is that you did, the impact that you made at this job that you were at. Notice how I say there were standardized test score improvements of up to 35%. There were 10% improvements in grades, and then students overall had an 86% completion rate of the homework and work that was given, right? And so I know this because I'm the one who directly made this impact. How did I do that? Okay, I did that by teaching them, by tutoring them, by engaging with them one-on-one, by providing them with the materials that they needed. And then what was the impact that I made? So students improved in their standardized test scores by 35%. There was a 10% increase in students' grades, and students had an 86% completion rate of their homework overall. I did all that. That was the impact that I made by directly tutoring them, teaching them, and giving them the tools that they needed to succeed. Right? So you got all that in those 3 to 4 sentences, and that's what you want to aim to convey in all of your experiences that you include. So again, you want to include metrics. Metrics are really, truly important to convey the impact that you had at your previous jobs. So that was your relevant experience. So cool. So we just went over 3 sections. We just went over your header, which includes your name and your contact information, your education, your relevant experience, and now we're going to move on to the skills, right? And this is pretty basic, simple, okay? It's really just skills that you know that will be useful for the job that you're applying for. So for me, I included Excel, Teams, Razor's Edge, Slate, Salesforce, Jabber Cisco, Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, Slack, QuickBooks, and Adobe Premiere. So those are all the applications that I know that I feel like would be useful in a position that I was applying for at the time, which was a program coordinator. Okay, and so boom, y'all, that's pretty much it. And so that is the resume and what you should include, right? And ideally, okay, your resume should really only be a page. I'm only speaking to entry-level positions. This is not for senior level, C-suite, executives, people who are applying for associate professor positions or anything in academia like that, okay? Obviously, for those resumes, you want to include more experience, more sections in your resume because you need to show your qualifications, right? However, if you are just starting out in the field or looking to transition to some entry-level position, 1 page is absolutely acceptable and actually encouraged. This study that I read and that I'm gonna link below as well, the data actually showed that the ideal resume is between 475 to 600 words, okay? And that's roughly a page. Again, recruiters are only spending about 6 to 7 seconds on your resume, right? So they're not going to be reading every single page. So be mindful about what sections you're putting first. Whatever works for you, you know what I'm saying? I'm just telling you what the data shows and what's ideal. So that's pretty much it, okay? I mean, that's the resume. That's how you formulate it, what it should include. And yeah, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below.